Hello and welcome to Hammer Time, a Hammer horror podcast, part of the Evolution of Horror Network. I'm Becky Darke, a film critic and Hammer fangirl. Still haven't come up with a new one. And I'm joined by my co-host, human encyclopedia of film and TV, and Hammer superfang, Kevin Lyons. Hi, Kev.
And we're talking of fangs. We're in the right place for fangs, aren't we?
Exactly. Yes. I like it when we do a vampire one because I can call you a super fang.
That's why you do it. No, he said yes. See, sorry, I'm a typical.
There is method to my madness.
I really am sometimes a typical bloke. I never listen to a word Becky actually says, to be honest.
Never listens to a word.
She's so clever and so witty, and I'm just like, yeah. Why aren't you letting me talk? I'm talking. Shush now, shush. I'm talking.
In this podcast, Kevin and I are watching and discussing every horror film in Hammer's back catalogue. And this week we are back with Christopher Lee as he takes on the role as the world's greatest bloodsucker once again in Dracula Has Risen from the Grave from 1968.
He is back from the dead.
Count Dracula is alive.
Our Hammer Time discussions are all spoilerific and we go into plot details and chat about the endings of the films. So if you'd like to watch Dracula Has Risen from the Grave before you listen to this episode, you can rent it all over the place. Prime, Apple TV and Sky, and it's available on DVD and Blu-ray. So Kev, it's another Dracula movie.
Yes.
I feel like Hammer are so well known for their Dracula movies and their vampire movies, more widely.
Yeah.
I think when people say, Hammer horror, one of probably the first sort of image that pops into people's heads is Christopher Lee as Dracula, or at least one of the vampire movies. Maybe a busty lady with some blood dripping from her fangs.
Whenever you see, the mainstream media do a little piece on Hammer, they'll put together a little package of clips, and it's always Dracula first.
Yeah.
And then, like you say, it's usually Ingrid Pitt or someone like her, sort of not as well dressed as perhaps they should be for breakfast television, perhaps, but there you go. And that's it. That you're right. That is the popular image, I think, of Hammer. We know, because we've done this podcast for so long now, that they did so much more.
So much more.
But I think the general public, you say Hammer films, and the first thing they think is a vampire. And why
Definitely.
not? Why not?
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. And if you're going to have a vampire movie, then Dracula is as good a one as any.
Absolutely right.
This is our, I want to say fourth
That's right,
Dracula movie, but third with Christopher Lee. Or is this our fourth with Christopher Lee?
No, it's four in total.
Yeah.
This is the third one with Christopher Lee. So we had Dracula with Christopher Lee, Brides of Dracula without Christopher Lee, Dracula Prince of Darkness, and now this one.
Yes. So before we get on to our actual opinions about the film, how do we feel about sort of Dracula at this point of our podcast journey? Is there any sort of Hammer Dracula fatigue at all, or are we both sort of firmly in the camp of, let's have more of it?
Oh, let's have more of it. I mean, let's not forget that, as you said, there's only been 4 of them so far.
Yeah.
And those 4 were made over a period of many, many years, weren't they? From 1958 through till now.
Yeah.
So basically a decade they made 4 of them. Following the success of this film, and it was a big success, we'll talk about that later, James Carreras, the head man at Hammer, he announced that they were going to make a new Dracula film every year from now on.
What?
So where previously we had 4 films in a decade, including this one and Brides, we're now going to get 5 of them between 1970 and 1974.
No way!
So Dracula fatigue may set in later on, but I think at the moment, certainly among the general public in the late 60s, there was still great excitement to see Christopher Lee as Dracula.
Yeah,
because he'd long supplanted, I think, in the minds of particularly younger audiences, long supplanted Bela Lugosi as the quintessential screen vampire.
Yeah.
And so, when the news broke that, he's back, there's going to be more, and he's risen from the grave. I mean, that sounds great, doesn't it? What a superb title. Then, of course people were going to flock to it. And as we will talk about later, it was a whopper of a success for Hammer, this one.
I love it. You mentioned there the title of the film, which, as you say, is brilliant. And before we move on, I would like to just revisit the poster for this film, which we have discussed in the past. But one of the posters that was created for Dracula Has Risen from the Grave has a sort of busty lady in quite tight close-up, and she's got 2 plasters on her neck. And then the tagline is just obviously. Obviously, yeah.
A lot of people don't like that, but I do. I think it was only for the American releases, but I think it's fantastic. I really like that.
I really like it. I genuinely want it for my wall. I think it's such a good poster.
It is terrific, isn't it? And it sort of emphasises the fact that while these films were quite scary, and this one is really quite scary in places, they were a lot of fun as well.
Yeah.
These were horror films that were fun.
Yeah.
And as I've got older, I've realised that's the kind of horror film I really want.
Same.
I could watch, the so-called torture porn or the French New Extremity and all the rest of it. I can get something from them. But if I'm just going to go and crash on the sofa and watch a horror film, it'd probably be Dracula Has Risen from the Grave.
Oh,
why not? Because it's a fun film.
It's
a
really
fun film. It's really good fun.
So how did this one come about, Kev? Any specific kind of production points?
Yes, we've got quite a few to discuss here, in fact.
Oh, lovely.
Hammer were in a sort of an odd place in 1968. They had started out the year with a big announcement of these big slate of productions that were going to come out. And during the course of the year, they won the Queen's Award to Industry. It was quite a prestigious thing at the time. They were presented with this on the set of Castle Dracula, on the steps outside. Which was built at Pinewood Studios. That happened on the 29th of May, presented to them by Sir Henry Floyd, the Lord Lieutenant of Buckinghamshire, no less. And so the Queen couldn't be bothered to turn up, bless her. But
obviously.
She was, nobody was going to run the risk of Christopher Lee putting the bite on the Queen, were they? So, so they sent Sir Henry Floyd along, and there was a big load of publicity, in fact, about this. It's like, a lot of people say, the more conservative newspapers in this country say, why are we giving these awards to these purveyors of filth and all the rest of it? But more sympathetic people were like, fantastic. Isn't that great? Look at the work they've done. It was mainly done for their kind of exports, I think, because they sold so much stuff to America and brought so much money into the film industry at the time.
Yes.
Which is why they were rewarded for that. So
I think that's great.
It's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing that they got that recognition. However, something was afoot at Hammer House. I'm not quite sure what it was. Like I said, they started off with this big announcement, this huge slate of films they were going to make. Among them, there was going to be a 4th Quatermass film.
Oh my God.
There was going to be a 3rd collaboration with Bette Davis.
Oh my God.
By the end of the year, it would turn out to be the quietest year in Hammer's production schedule since 1955. Only 2 of the films they announced, this and When Dinosaurs Rule the Earth, actually started shooting in 1968.
How odd.
Frankenstein Must Be Destroyed and the truly execrable Moon 02 didn't go into production until 1969. Just thank your lucky stars we're not doing science fiction films in this, because honestly, it's an awful film. I might do my own podcast. I won't subject you to it. You could just listen to me ranting about bloody Moon 02.
Amazing. I would subscribe immediately.
And there was a 3rd film called The Reluctant Virgin, about which I know nothing, but what a title.
Yeah.
And they were all that was scrapped altogether as well. So 2 films got shot, 2 films got delayed, 3 of them were scrapped. So it was a bit of a mixed bag. They were still busy. They were shooting the TV series Journey to the Unknown.
Right.
Which was the first of their anthology series.
Yes.
The better known ones, of course, are Hammer House of Horror and Hammer House of Mystery and Suspense, which would come much later. Mm-hmm. And are really Hammer in name only, because Hammer didn't really make them, to be honest. Mm-hmm. But this one, Journey to the Unknown, it was made by Hammer and 20th Century Fox, so they were busy beavering away with that. But film production ground to a halt with only 2 films in 1968. How about that?
Interesting.
One big notable thing about this particular film is that we're saying hello to a new name.
Yes.
An important new name, producer Ada Young.
Right.
She was Hammer's only female producer.
Go Ida.
She'd been an associate producer on 1 Million Years BC and had Slave Girls and The Vengeance of She as producer credits. She'd been a production manager. She'd been done all sorts of jobs. She'd been with Hammer forever. In fact, she'd done some uncredited second assistant direction work on the thriller Man Trap in 1953. And oddly, although we're only mentioning her here for the first time, she was there right at the start of our journey, just invisible. Insert your own comments about women in the British film industry here.
Quite right, yeah.
Because she did.
Right, that's fascinating.
She did some uncredited second unit direction work on Quatermass Experiment.
No way.
So she was there for. She was very close to Michael Carreras. And Michael Carreras had left Hammer for a while to strike out on his own. Didn't quite work out, so he came back. I think She was the first one. Okay. He's back at the time we're talking about here. And Aida came with him because they were such good mates. And she got bumped up the ladder and she becomes a producer. Well, hopefully we'll have a chance to talk more about her a little later on in other episodes, because we are going to see her again. She's going to make at least a couple more appearances. One, producing one of the worst films Hammer ever made, and the other producing one of the best that they ever made. So we might save her for that one.
Yeah, let's save her for that one. Okay, let's talk about the plot of Dracula Has Risen from the Grave. After a couple of priests accidentally bring Count Dracula back from the dead while exercising his castle, the vampire preys on the Monsignor's beautiful niece and her friends.
The church in this don't come out looking good, do they?
Silly.
For a film that's ostensibly very religious in tone, they're a pair of idiots, these priests, aren't they? They're not very bright. I mean, it's like they know what they're up against, but they sort of... Yeah, they make an awful lot of unforced errors.
They do,
film,
yeah. The Monsignor certainly sort of barrels into town,
Yeah.
Why is the church empty? Why aren't you doing mass to the priest, the local priest? The priest's like, well, I've already done it, actually. I was done to, empty church, and he sat drinking in the pub. Yeah. And the Monsignor's like, well, Dracula's been dead for years. Come on, I'll show you. And then... haphazardly, inadvertently, idiotically, they bring him back.
I mean, in fairness, in films that are set in the past, I can kind of understand that they make these stupid kind of mistakes. But it really annoys me in films set in the modern day when it's very clear that the people in them have never seen a horror film before. If you've got a bunch of villagers saying, don't go to Dracula's castle even though he's dead, you don't go to Dracula's castle because we all know what's going to happen. We've seen it happen in films. Maybe we can excuse them because they were, living in 1905, about which I'll have something to say later on. Ooh. And they didn't know any different, perhaps, but they do seem to make an awful lot of mistakes, these two churchmen. They really do.
What do you think of this one, Kev? You a fan?
I rather like this one, I have to say. It's a lot of fun. It zips along. There's plenty of sex and blood. Lee is actually quite terrifying.
Yeah, he is.
In this. He really is quite... I mean, what's not to like? It's a properly good gothic vampire film. Yeah. With, and I have to say, we'll come on to the cast later on, not a duff performance in sight.
No, I agree with that completely.
Everybody in this film is at the top of their game.
Yeah.
Really, really, really good. And so, yeah, it's a great film. I really enjoy this one a lot.
I do as well. I had a lot of fun with it. It's the first time I've seen it.
Oh, right, yeah.
When sort of coming into, sitting down and pressing play, there was a little bit, a sort of itching at the back of my head, like, yeah, all right, come on.
Yeah.
How different is this one going to be?
Sure.
And the short answer to that is not very different, actually. Like
it's not really.
It's all the same stuff.
Yeah.
Really.
But it's done so well.
It's done really well. I completely agree about all the performances. It looks really good. We'll come on to talk about Freddie Francis, the director.
We will.
And we've spoken about him, obviously, in the past, having been a very good and decorated cinematographer.
Indeed,
But there's something specific in this film about the way that Dracula himself is shot.
Oh, yes.
And I think that goes some way towards what you were saying just now about Christopher Lee actually being really scary in this one.
Yeah, he's a very scary character in this. And the lighting is beautiful. And like you said, there's nothing particularly new in this. It's kind of rearranging the tables in some way.
Yes.
But the the configuration that they end up with is hugely entertaining.
Yeah.
It really. We were moaning, weren't we, about the fact that the Mummy films kind of ran out of steam a bit quickly. What do you do with a mummy?
That's right.
Not the problem you have with Dracula. You know, you can keep bringing him back because he's got a personality, and because he's Christopher Lee, and because this time we get to hear Christopher Lee's voice. Mm-hmm. We didn't hear him speak in Dracula, Prince of Darkness. Mm-hmm. Here he does. Some of the lines of dialogue, you can almost see poor old Christopher wincing as he delivers them, because they're not the great. I mean, what do you get Dracula to say? I said this in Dracula, Prince of Darkness. What would he have to say to a mere mortal like you and I?
Right.
You know, he's an undead, immortal count who's just been brought back from temporary extinction, mm-hmm. and we're just mere mortals who are just here for a mere blip in the history of the universe. What has he got to say to us? So I think they always found it a little bit difficult to put decent words into his mouth.
What he tends to do in this one is just boss people around a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Dracula is so grumpy in this film. It's really funny.
Oh, come on, wouldn't you be? The last time we saw him, he was disappearing under the ice at the moat around his castle. Then he's woken up only to find that a pair of idiot priests have exorcised his castle, locked him out, so he can't even go home. He's like, he's very angry, I have to say, with the horses on the carriages that he's driving around with. He gives them a right good thrashing, doesn't he?
He does. He takes it out on those poor animals.
But he's a proper grump in this one, and I love it. I absolutely love the fact that he's so angry about everything. Just love it.
He just spends all his time just like barking orders at people and looking kind of pissed off that, you know, there might be a cross in his vague vicinity.
Because he's a nobleman, he's a count, and these plebs have come along and bested him. I mean, good Lord. I mean, he's the most entitled character in horror anyway. So, you know, I love it. I think it's very funny, but also very, very dark.
Yeah, yes, it is. And I completely agree. He's scary. Like, some people, when they get angry, you do almost sort of laugh. It's like, all right, mate, calm down. But with him, it's like, oh God, like he's very dangerous.
How far is he going to go with this? You know,
exactly.
This is scary stuff. Yeah.
I really like that it follows on directly from the end of Prince of Darkness, because, as you say, Kev, you know, that's the one where it finishes with him sort of freezing, you know, it's because the water's running, right? Like, that was the law that was introduced. So
that's right.
He goes through the ice into the running water, and he perishes. And he's brought back in this film when the Monsignor and the priest are going up the mountain to exorcise the castle, because the villagers won't go to the church because it sits in the shadow of the castle, and they can just feel the evil that is still kind of present in the area, even though Dracula is dead.
Yeah.
So the Monsignor takes it upon himself. He's like, right, we can't have this. Come on, you, and takes the priest up the mountain. But the priest is so scared that he doesn't go all the way up, and it's left to the Monsignor to do the actual exorcism, speaks his Latin. He's taken the huge kind of gold cross from the church, and I love that you see him going up the mountain with it kind of strapped across his back.
That's right, yeah.
It's such a cool image. And the priest has stayed down the mountain a bit, and he like falls over and hits his head. That's
right. Yep.
And kind of breaks the ice, and the blood drips from his head wound. Now, this is a very fun movie, and this is probably the only point where I actually like laughed out loud, and I don't know that I was meant to, but the way the blood, Kev, lands on Dracula's mouth is hilarious. It looks like he's just put some lipstick on.
It does,
because how perfectly placed is that blood? There's none anywhere else on his face at all. It's just gone perfectly round his lips.
I thought he looked rather like he'd rather messily eaten eaten a burger. Got tomato ketchup just around his lips. He'd wiped everything else up, but he's still got the ketchup on his lips. Although he then sort of turns that around because, you just thinking, oh, that's funny. But then he does that absolutely horrible thing, doesn't he, with his mouse?
He sort of goes, nom, 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 nom. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Oh, it's quite creepy, isn't it?
It's horrid. It's really grotesque, actually.
It is. That's brilliant. So just as you're about to laugh, it's sort of like, oh, no, stop laughing. This is really nasty.
He's still an absolute monster who is just about to be reanimated from human blood. Like,
indeed, yes.
But yes, so I liked a lot that it just follows on directly. And
well, it kind of does, and it kind of doesn't. I said earlier, I was going to save this till later, but now that we're here, we might as well talk about 1905.
Yeah, go on.
Let's start at the beginning. When we're talking about the first Dracula film, it was very clearly stated that it was set in 1885. Dracula, Prince of Darkness takes place a decade later, 1895.
That's right.
This film has to be set no more than a year after Dracula, Prince of Darkness. The very opening scene is the priest and a young mute boy who lives in the village discovering a woman's body hanging inside the church bell.
Incredible scene.
Which is a superb opening. It really sets out the film's stall straight away, doesn't it? There's no messing about. But we have to assume that these took place during the events of Prince of Darkness or just prior to Prince of Darkness.
That's right. Yes,
presumably it was Clove that put the woman in the bell. I don't know why he put the woman in the bell. Maybe he was just thinking, this will look good when one of those idiot bloody priests turned up and has a look. Like, this will be scary, isn't it? But if it's 1 year after Dracula, Prince of Darkness, the latest this film could be 1896.
Yeah.
We later see Gisela Hahn, I think her name was, who is the girl in the bell. It's her coffin that Dracula steals, but on the lid of it, it says her date of death is 1905. So where have all those years gone?
And to your point about it having to be a year, we are literally told that it's a year.
We are told that explicitly.
And we are shown that it's a year in a very lovely little device.
Yes.
Where the camera just stays on the window to the bell tower and it goes from sunny to rainy to snowy to sunny. And then it goes
That's right.
1 year later. Or actually, I think the Monsignor says, in his voiceover, 1 year has passed since Dracula.
That's right, yep. So they're very explicit about it, yet there it is. The nameplate actually says 1905. So we've lost 9 years somewhere, which I said right at the start of this whole journey that trying to work out the continuity and make it work in the Dracula and Frankenstein films is a bit of a fool's errand.
Right, exactly.
They do kind of follow on from each other, but you do have to overlook a certain sloppiness, because as I keep saying, and I will keep on saying this, and I will always say this will probably be the last thing I say when they put me in my coffin, these films were never meant to be examined the way we examine them. They were meant to be watched on a Saturday night, and you went home and you waited for the next one. And also, it's entirely possible that the definition on the print wouldn't have been good enough that they could read the date on the coffin anyway. I mean, I've only spotted it because I've seen it about 16 million times. So it's like, and now in HD. And now in HD, yeah, exactly. So we can see these things. But that's a minor little glitch in the timeline. That's funny. I hadn't even noticed that. But it also raises another question, which we won't dwell on too much. If that was Gisela's coffin, she must have been a very big girl. If Christopher Lee can get in the coffin and lie there quite comfortably, she must have been at least 6 foot tall. There's no evidence of that from the film, is there? Although, to be fair, you can't really see her bottom half when she's hanging upside down from the bell with her boobs and her blood everywhere. She might have had legs till Tuesday, mightn't she? There you go. Really long legs or something. But yeah, it's kind of How does Dracula fit into that coffin so comfortably? But these are minor irritations. Minors. I say them now, we get them out of the way, we can move on to the good stuff. Exactly. Speaking of the good stuff, that is actually a really horrific scene when Dracula has kind of gotten the priest under his thrall. He sort of adopts him as his new familiar. And the first thing he gets him to do is dig up
a coffin, so digs up a grave. And I'm glad you pointed that out about whose it was, actually, because I hadn't clocked that it was the girl from The Bell. I just thought it was, a random grave. But he gets the priest to dig it up and then unceremoniously just like dumps the body out.
Just lets her lie there, mouldering away.
Horrid. Horrid.
Even worse, there's a little cutaway shot to Dracula watching, and he just smirks in this very smug, nasty way, like, ha-ha, this'll teach them. One of my previous victims has just been thrown out of a coffin.
Yeah.
They don't make anything of that in the film. I wish they had actually come back and somebody had said Gisella's body suddenly reappeared.
Yeah.
That would have been good, but, they didn't kind of need it in a way. They were able to tell the story without it. But I think the fact that he's sort of smirking when he's watching from afar. He's not getting his hands dirty, of course.
Of course not.
Because, he's a count. He's not going to do that. He's going to get... And, this sacrilegious notion, really, that he could get a priest.
I love that they do that. Yeah.
Incredible. And so the priest then breaks God knows how many vows and rules, whatever, digging up a body and literally pitching it out. No respect for this poor, dead, mouldering girl at all. Mm-mm. And then Dracula just smiles, self-satisfied, smug smile.
Yeah.
What a bastard. And Dracula is so horrible in this film. That's why I like it so much. He's awful in this film.
He is really horrible. Let's talk a bit about Freddie Francis. So he's back in the director's chair.
He is.
We've spoken about some incredible Freddie Francis films over the last few months. Paranoiac, Nightmare, Hysteria.
Yeah.
And he did, is it Evil of Frankenstein?
Evil of Frankenstein, yeah. Which I think is his only other gothic that we've discussed. Yep. They're the only ones he made for Hammer. He went off to Amicus and various independents in the 1970s.
I remember you saying. But I mean, in terms of his Gothic films that he was directing for Hammer, I would say that this is far superior and more successful than Evil of Frankenstein.
By a country mile, as they say. I mean, this really is Francis at his very best, I think. This is extraordinary stuff. I still maintain that he's absolute peak with those psychological thrillers. He was so good with those, and he was so good with Black and White.
Yes.
Which I think was fantastic. Interestingly, Terence Fisher was due to direct this.
Okay.
But he broke his leg and couldn't work. So Freddie Francis stepped in. And I'd have to say he does a superb job of it. I can't imagine Fisher doing a better job. He would have done a different job.
Yeah.
It would have been a different film. But I think the film we've got, I think Francis does extremely well with it. It's a terrific film.
I mean, there was, we were talking, when we talked about films like Paranoiac and Nightmare particularly, there is such a strong sense of horror in those films.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that Freddie Francis, rather than Terence Fisher, has brought to this. You lose so much of that kind of fairy tale feeling.
That's right.
And there's a real nastiness to it.
This is much grimmer. I mean, it is literally darker.
Yes.
Literally darker. The interiors are quite gloomy. And, a lot of the times I get quite annoyed with gloomy interiors. Even my beloved X-Files. I quite often watch an episode of the X-Files and just think, honestly, guys, if you just switch the bloody light on, you solve this case a hell of a lot quicker.
Well, yeah, but then they can't do the cool thing with the flashlights.
With the torches. The one that really annoys me, I'm off on a tangent now, bear with me, put the kettle on, you'll be all right, I'll be over in a second, is the Batman, the one with Robert Pattinson.
Oh, God, I couldn't see what was going on.
The entirety of Gotham is plunged into darkness for no reason whatsoever. If you turn some lights on, you wouldn't need the Batman. You'd be able to see the bad guys. Why have you switched all the bloody lights off when you're in the middle of a massive crime wave? It makes no sense at all. It annoys me. Here, it doesn't, because it works beautifully. It enhances the Gothic atmosphere.
It does.
And it enhances the idea that Dracula is a creature of the dark. That he lives in the darkness.
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember which one it was. It must have been Prince of Darkness, where you mentioned at one point, Kev, it was like he looks almost like he's strolling about in the daytime.
Yeah.
In a couple of shots, and you don't get that here. And in fact,
not at all. No.
The only time that you really do is during his death scene.
That's right.
And you're so right about that. That it definitely the way that Freddie Francis shoots Has Risen from the Grave is really emphasising him being a creature of the dark, right?
Definitely. And we have to give a shout out as well to Arthur Grant, of course, the cinematographer on this. And, you know, the way his lighting on this is amazing. It would have been Francis that would have suggested the low angles, but it would have been Grant who came up with the lighting design. So these two great cinematographers working together.
It looks like they're using a lot of colour gels.
Sort of. Freddie Francis, as we know, cinematographer, and he'd been the cinematographer on Jack Clayton's classic ghost film, The Innocents, in 1961.
That's right.
Do you remember there was lots of sort of strange filter effects in that film?
Of course, yeah.
The same filters. He kept them, gave them to Jack Clayton and said, use these.
Oh my God, as in literally the same ones?
Literally the same ones.
Oh my God.
Incredible. And he came to Arthur Grant and said, here you go, Arthur, give these a try. I used them in black and white and they were stunning, the effect. Let's see what they look like in colour.
Yeah.
And he did, and you get that sort of weird amber glow around the frame of the picture.
Yeah.
And they only use it when Dracula is in shot.
Yes.
Or where sort of he's in the vicinity, basically.
Yeah.
So this sort of sickly, sort of amber, sort of like blood that's been around for a while sort of thing. You know, it's a really, really interesting effect, really unearthly.
I love that it's literally the same filters.
Literally the same ones, yeah. Two very different horror films.
Very different.
Very different horror films, but they're connected by the same set of filters. How about that?
I love that. If those filters could talk.
Wouldn't they? I wonder where they are.
I know. They should be in
Somebody out there.
The Media and TV Museum or whatever it's called up in Bradford. That's where they should be.
They should, shouldn't they? Or they should be in my flat. I'd look at them.
Or there, yes,
really
of course.
I'd even make space on my Doctor Who toy shelf to put up those. Somebody out there must know where they are. Do we know whatever happened to those filters from Freddie Francis? Did they survive? They may have been long since lost by now. But
Hammer time. What's our email address? hammer@evolutionofhorror.com. Write in, let us know.
Let us know, yeah. I'd love to know where they are and go and have a look at those. That'd be incredible. But yes, I mean, this was the perfect combination of two very, very skilled British cinematographers.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier, Kev, about how this film zips along, and I've got to say, as well as the visuals, the pacing really worked for me. Not just the sort of, I don't know, the pacing of the film as a whole, but even, you know, coming back to that opening scene, it just hits the ground running, this film, and never seems to kind of sort of slow its pace at all. You know, you immediately get blood and cleavage and like real horror and like you said earlier, it sets the film stall out of what to expect, and I just love so much that it then just doesn't really stop.
It doesn't, does it? I think it's one of those films where if you turned up on a Saturday night on a date and you didn't know what you were getting into, you were just looking for a back row somewhere for a bit of privacy, I think within about 5 minutes of the film opening, you'd have been under no illusion whatsoever about what you were going to get.
Right.
You know, you knew straight away because it's in your face from the very start.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love the fact that it just gets on with it. You know, no, I'm going to have a moan about modern films again. These modern horror films are 2 hours long, and the first hour and a half is people just moping about.
I know, right?
Just get on with it. We're not here. We don't care about your backstory. We want to see blood and violence. Get on with it. These films just did that, and this one in particular just throws you straight into it. It's like, good luck, keep up with us. This is where we're starting. Imagine where we're going to finish.
It does feel like that.
It does, doesn't it?
It's such a great opening scene. So this was written by Anthony Hines as John Elder.
Yes.
And again, you know, this is somebody that we've talked about in terms of some of our favourite Hammer horror films. Curse of the Werewolf, Captain Clegg, Kiss of the Vampire, The Reptile, one of my faves, Rasputin the Mad Monk. Yeah. The screenplay to this film is spectacular, I think.
It's great, isn't it? I think it's one of his best.
The vast majority of my favourite moments were just lines from the film, to the point that I had to cut them, as I was like typing them out in my notes, I had to just cut all of the quotes, and I've almost like got them in a kind of separate document to go through as we chat about it, because otherwise it would have just been like 5 minutes of me quoting the movie.
I've no problem with that. And like I say, I think they have, Hammer in general had problems knowing what to have Dracula say a lot of the time. But he certainly makes up for it with the other characters who have some absolutely humdinging lines. The characterisation is really good in this film.
Really good.
I think we tend to sometimes overlook poor old Anthony Hines because we talk about, sort of giants like Jimmy Sangster and Nigel Neal, and we quite rightly heap all the praise on them because they were extraordinary talents.
Yeah.
But, Anthony Hines, or John Elder, as he liked to sign himself on the credits, he was no slouch. He knew how to put a script together, and he got better as he went along, I think, reaching a kind of a peak around this period. When he was coming up with some really interesting ideas. It's not just the characterisation, it's not just the story, it's the ideas that inform it that I find interesting here. And he's going to do that again with the next couple of films that he makes. It's all about the ideas.
What do you mean by that, Kev? What is it, do you think, about this Dracula film that has different ideas to what we've seen before?
Well, one of the things that sort of like, I think with the Mummy films that makes us go, another Mummy film, is that there's not a lot you can do with them. As we've said many times before, with Dracula you can, and in this case Anthony Hines starts messing with some of the mythology.
Yes.
To the annoyance of some fans, but I'm going to ignore them because I quite like what we're seeing here. Bearing in mind, of course, that vampires don't exist and are entirely made up, so the writers can do whatever the bloody hell they please with them, thank you very much, because none of it's set in stone, is it? It's like, you can even have them as teenagers walking around in the daylight and twinkling if you want to. I mean, I'm not going to say I'm a fan of Twilight films, but if that's what you want to do, that's fine. You can do that. Go for it. Do it. I just choose not to watch past the first film, to be honest. But there you go. But we get a lot of new stuff added here. A lot of new things, including the bit I think there's the most contentious part of the film. I like it. I think it's really good. A lot of people don't. And Christopher Lee was one of them. He didn't like this bit at all. Is when they drive the stake into Dracula's heart while he's lying in his coffin. And because they don't go through with a prayer and finish off the ceremony, he's able to pull the stake back out again. And I quite like that, because in this film, I think in any other Dracula film it wouldn't have worked. I think in this film, because he's adding these huge layers of religiousness to it, I think it's very possibly the most Christian of Hammer's horrors.
Yeah.
It is a very Christian film. Even it would make a nice double bill with The Devil Rides Out.
Yes.
See the two, some positive and negative forces cancel each other out, But I think, there's a lot of religious things going on in this film. And I do like the idea that, okay, you can't kill Dracula unless you pray after you staked him. Flies in total contravention of everything else we've seen before in the series. But I like it in this film, which is why in some respects I think these films possibly work better if you see them as standalone films.
Right.
I think in this one they're just trying to do something different with Dracula, and that difference is bringing in this sort of unexpected religious angle.
It is very religious. There's a lot of stuff about faith and atheism.
Yeah.
And as you say, that is brought into literally the kind of vampire lore.
That's right.
The other thing that I think is probably a little contentious and stood out to me is that Dracula has a reflection in this one.
But then, Hammer will do this a lot. As we go into the 1970s, and particularly 1970, we will see them messing with vampire mythology all the time. We're going to see vampire lovers. I think she walks around in daylight. They say something about the fact that she can do it for a limited amount of time or whatever, but still, she's able to walk about in daylight. Captain Kronos, Vampire Hunter, has a very different kind of vampire in it. So we were going to see them experimenting with it. And I think that's good. I like that because it keeps it fresh. They can't keep remaking Bride of Dracula and Kiss of the Vampire.
No, absolutely.
They have to keep trying new wrinkles. And I think they do, they had mixed success with some of that, but God bless them for trying it.
Well, and it has to be said about the Dracula having a reflection thing. Luckily, it is an incredible moment because it's when it's just after the priest, played by Ewan Hooper, has just very conveniently bled around Dracula's mouth, and he sort of comes to, because he's hit his head obviously, and he comes to and looks down into the water, and we see that Dracula's gone, and then he sees him in the reflection of the water, and then you get that amazing shock moment of Christopher Lee looming over him from behind. It's a very, very cool, like, he's back moment.
and I can forgive changes in the mythology if you're going to come up with a shot like that.
Exactly.
If you're going to come up with changes just for the sake of changes, not interested. But if you're doing it because you want to bring something into the film we hadn't seen before, go for it. Do it. Why not? Like I say, vampires don't exist. Sorry, guys, they don't. And it's just, we can kind of do what we want with them, and why not? And sometimes people go too far. Sometimes people don't go far enough. I think they go just about far enough here. I think it's just right. I think it's just because there's a lot of good stuff in this about religion, which all ties into these sort of changes. In fact, I'd say that the film is as much about loss and finding of faith as it is about vampires, really.
Yeah, I would agree with that, definitely.
Dracula's a catalyst for that, for this sort of notion that people have faith and lose it, didn't have faith and find it. And that's all part of it. I think it's fantastic. And at the end, of course, we get this magnificent ending with Dracula skewered to a large golden cross, the same cross we saw being lugged up the side of the mountain by the Monsignor.
Yeah.
To his credit, Freddie Francis just about holds back from having Dracula's arms thrown out across sort of fake crucifixion. I think that one would have annoyed the censors even more than the film actually
That's
did.
That's getting into the realm of Ken Russell, I think. I don't know.
It is, isn't it? So, fair play to Freddie Francis for having some good taste there and not going that far. Although I bet there was a bit of him at night thinking, can I? Should I? Oh, I really want to. No, I can't. I bet he had a bit of a struggle with that because it would have been great. But I think, that and the sacrilegious notion that we mentioned before about the priest being used by Dracula, essentially becoming Dracula's slave, the idea that Paul, the young lead in it, has to abandon his atheism.
And there's that very cool bit, and actually this is another reason that the having to pray to kind of finish Dracula off after you've staked him isn't just change for change's sake. It really does play into a part, like one of the sort of real sort of parts of action and narrative of the film. Because Paul Paul has to pray to finish Dracula off at one point, sort of midway through the film, and he can't, like, he literally can't bring himself to do it. I don't know if that is a kind of does that come from a place of sort of defiance, or does it come from a place of him almost realising, well, I could say the words, but they're not going to mean anything?
Exactly. I think it's a bit of both. I think, Paul is established as being a sort of young man of learning. He's always reading books. He's always studying. So he's not as superstitious as the other villagers. And I think part of that, he's rejected religion as part of being too superstitious for him. And I think he knows that, yes, he could do it, but it would be a hollow thing and would probably make matters worse. All it would do would infuriate Dracula even more. Mind you, he's fairly pissed off to find that he's got a stake through his heart and have to wrench it out. But
he's not having a great time of it.
He's not. And I'm struggling to find any sympathy for him because he's so monstrous in this film. He really is. But it's like, I do think he thinks, I could do it. I'm an atheist. And I could go through the motions. I've done it at funerals and whatever, and sort of read eulogies and sort of quoted the Bible and stuff. And there's a hollowness to it because I don't believe a word of it.
Yeah.
That's fairly harmless. That's okay. If you're actually having to do it to thwart the ultimate evil, pretty much, then of course you're going to panic and you're not going to want to go through with that because you're going to think, I'm just going to make matters worse. It's going to be... It must be a very difficult decision for Paul to have had to take.
Yeah, and in the face of literally a huge 6'4" vampire who's really pissed off, who's just about to pull a stake out of his own chest, you know.
And an almost as scary uncle of your beloved, who just happens to be the Monsignor, who's not very happy with you already anyway. So
very unhappy about the fact that his niece is dating an atheist.
Yes, exactly. So there's all this kind of religious stuff percolating through the film. And I find that really fascinating. Even as an atheist myself, I find that really fascinating in the context of this story.
Well, I'm an atheist as well, and I was quite surprised to see a film from this era, and especially that's set in 1905, whether it should be or not. Actually using the word atheist, like it's so bold. It felt bold.
It is. I mean, you know, the Hammer films had always really been about setting the world back to rights again, usually through the grace of God. It's always a God-fearing man. Even Van Helsing. You know, is man of science where he wields crucifixes. So he's a man of God as well as a man of action. And so to actually have a young hero who's rejected all of that. OK, at the end, we do get the stereotypical cliched, everything goes back to normal through the power of God because, you know, Paul relents. And I think the last time we see him, he's crossing himself, isn't he?
Is he? So, I don't think I noticed that. OK, that's interesting.
So he's like, he has now fully gone over. Whether he's fully gone over or not in his heart of hearts, or whether he's just thinking, I really like this girl and I'm not going to mess this up again, and I've just seen off Dracula, so I'll just do it. And, you know. And
also, I wonder if there's a little bit of, you know, it's not necessarily so much that he now believes in God as much as that he definitely now believes in evil, right?
I think he believes in something.
Yeah, exactly.
That he believes in something. I think he's now agnostic, perhaps, where he's not sure one way or the other. He's willing to be persuaded, I think, at that point.
I think that's it, isn't it? Whereas earlier, obviously, when we first meet him, he's so convinced of his
That's
own...
right, yeah.
Convictions.
Exactly. He's us at the beginning of the film. He's absolutely convinced that there is nothing. But then by the end of it, he's like, well, OK... maybe there is. I'll hedge my bets. You know, I'll cross myself because, you know, just in case, I am now willing to be opened to receive that if it's actually there, you know. So it's a really complex film in a lot of ways, really quite nuanced, which I absolutely love it for that, you know.
Yeah, same.
If I could just, at this point, actually just say, I've got a lovely story for you from Barry Andrews, who plays Paul.
Yeah, go on.
Talking about the staking scene. He said, on the day we filmed the staking scene, it happened to be his, Christopher Lee's, birthday. Oh. And as he wrestled to pull the stake from his heart, the light went out, and suddenly two beautiful maidens appeared, bearing a cake with many candles on it. How good is that? I love it.
That's amazing.
So you could be doing these really dark, heavy scenes, and Hammer could still have a bit of a joke, you know, behind the scenes. I love it.
Actually adorable. I love that.
I would love if someone had taken, this stills photographer had taken pictures of Christopher Lee's face when these two beautiful young girls turn up with the birthday cake.
That's amazing.
It would have been
wonder
wonderful.
if they, because how old is Dracula by this point? 500 and something?
Oh, and the rest, yeah.
I'd love it if they'd managed to get all of Dracula's candles on it, you know?
Well, like you say, many candles on it. I think he was like having to dig at Christopher Lee being older than him. But, having all of Dracula's candles and it burnt the set down.
Well, exactly. Yeah, good point. So how did Christopher Lee feel about returning for the film? I know we've talked a little bit in the past about him sort of being reticent about things like screenplays, although, again, that might be apocryphal, etc., and about him being a little sort of testy, let's say, about him being sort of typecast. So was Christopher Lee up for playing Dracula again?
No, in a word. I adore Christopher Lee, as you know, but I sometimes think we have to take what he said with a little pinch of salt sometimes. I think he was prone to over-exaggerating things. But at the time, James Carreras was absolutely desperate to get Christopher Lee back in the Cape. Of course he was. So was his legion of fans. And he had, at this point, a very active fan club. You know, he was a big name, Christopher Lee, at the time. And Christopher Lee inevitably complained to his fan club about the dialogue, didn't like the dialogue,
right,
and made the claim that Hammer, quote, have committed themselves to the making of this film, but they do not appear to think that they are required to pay me my current market price, which I receive from all the other companies, end quote. So he initially said, no, I'm not going to do it. Sorry, not interested.
Oh my God.
Now, bigger fish to fry now. At which point, and this is his version of the story, so, you know, we can take it as it is, but I think it's a nice story. Well, it's not a nice story, it's kind of horrible, but it's a good story. He claimed that James Carreras then used emotional blackmail to entice him back, telling him that without him, the film wouldn't go ahead, and a lot of people would be put out of a job. Ooh, which is a bit naughty, isn't it, to say the least?
Yeah.
Lee was the kind of guy who, like, he's not going to have that on his conscience. He knew these guys of old.
Right.
I think he enjoyed working with a lot of them. And so he reluctantly gave in. And later he said, I would never have done it if I hadn't been forced to.
Ooh.
I think it put a bit of a strain on Lee's relationship with Hammer in general, and particularly with Carreras. I think he felt that he was being a little bit bullied, perhaps, into doing this. Mm-hmm. You can't tell that from his performance.
No.
His performance is, as you would expect from a man of Christopher Lee's standing, absolutely amazing.
Although
because
maybe he used his annoyance about the emotional blackmail to get across just how annoyed Dracula is in this film.
Seriously, I hadn't thought of that, but yeah, that's why Dracula's so bloody angry, isn't it? I bet if you go and turn the volume up, you can hear Dracula muttering bloody Carreras just before he launches into a tirade, you know. But I think he's not like me, who going to work, or used to go to work when I worked in the office, and everybody knew that I was pissed off. Yeah, I can't hide it. I was just like so angry with everything and everybody, myself more than most people. I think Christopher Lee, because he was such a professional, he could bury that, or like you say, maybe even use that, maybe channel that as part of the character.
Yeah.
But he gives a terrific performance, despite the fact that he really didn't want to be there.
Didn't want to be there.
Yeah, which is amazing, really, isn't it? When you think about it,
it really is.
Think about some of the other prima donnas, old and new, who've been in film and television and the stage, who stormed out. They flounced out over the slightest little issue. Mm-hmm. Christopher Lee claims to have been forced into doing this film, and turns up and gives an absolutely stunning performance, as he always did.
Yeah.
So, gotta love the man for that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's very interesting, actually. Especially considering he does keep coming back after this film, right?
He does. I think the threat was still there, apparently, that, Chris, if you don't turn up, mate, we're not going to be able to do these films, Hammer will close.
He must have been absolutely delighted that they were like, yeah, now we're making one a year.
I bet when he heard that announcement, he was thinking, oh my God, really, James? Really? Didn't you even consult with me? Have you asked me if I want to do one of these bloody things a year? But, so I guess he was quite angry, and eventually, of course, he will just finally say, no, that's enough. I am done with Dracula. And I think this possibly ties into, on the occasions when I met him, he would talk about Dracula, so long as it wasn't the sole topic of the conversation.
Right, okay, yeah.
If you were just saying, oh, Christopher Lee, you are Dracula, he would be like, no, I'm a lot more than that. If you went up to him and said, I really like you in Dracula, and I really enjoyed Ginner. I thought Ginner was fantastic, which is the film he seemed to be the most proud of. And I loved The Wicker Man. You were great in The Wicker Man. He'd quite happily talk about Dracula then. I just think he just felt that playing the same character over and over again, he was just sort of like, that's all people thought he could do. I
think that's it, isn't it? Yeah.
And that was the problem. He wasn't that he was hated Dracula, just the opposite. He didn't want to keep playing him. That was all. Yeah. Didn't want every question that was put to him to be making him talk about that same thing. It must get so boring. I think there was a TV interview or something where the interviewer made the fatal mistake of starting with, you are the king of horror. Yeah. And Christopher Lee goes, no. Oh, no. He's absolutely not having it at all, And quite rightly so, He's just, the man could not be stereotyped and pigeonholed like that. He was far too talented for that in a lot of ways. Yeah, that's it.
Kev, you mentioned earlier that this was the quietest year for Hammer since, what did you say, 1953?
1955, yeah.
Oh, 55, yeah. Amazing. So I'm going to take a little jaunt off into our little feature that we do from time to time, because we haven't got a lot of opportunities to talk about 1968 because it's come and gone.
It's this week or next week, so,
basically.
make a choice.
So we have a little feature where we look at what was going on in the world, mainly the UK, at the time that the film we're talking about was released. So here is Hammer in History.
Hammer in History.
Right, my goodness. 1968. There was a lot going on.
It's a hell of a year, wasn't it?
Hell of a year. So, in politics, I like to start in politics. So, the Abortion Act came into effect, which legalised abortion on a number of grounds with free provision through the NHS. That is in the good things column.
Good things, yep. That's a good tick that box, yep.
Tick. The Race Relations Act was also passed, making it illegal to refuse housing, employment or public services to people in England, Wales and Scotland because of their ethnic background. Another good thing. Tick.
Another tick. Yep.
Women sewing machinists went on strike at the Ford Dagenham assembly plant to have their work valued as skilled.
Yeah.
They didn't achieve full wage parity with their male counterparts, but they were given 92% of the men's rate rather than 85%. And this, their strike went on to act, sort of influence the Equal Pay Act of 1970. So this was a big deal in kind of, union collective action, which is a brilliant thing.
And they made a film out of it, didn't they?
Did they? Was that at the Dagenham?
I'm sure that was the Dagenham.
Yeah, you might be right.
Maybe I've got it wrong, but it seems to...
Was it literally called Strike? Is that what the film's called?
No, it was called Made in Dagenham.
Oh, you're right. So yes, I would imagine that it probably was at the Dagenham plant.
Yes, there you go. It was. So yes, it was that. Yes. Good for them. Well played, those
Amazing.
girls. Brilliant.
5 and 10 pence coins were introduced in the run-up to decimalisation, which would be complete within the next 3 years. Okay, now into the not-so-good column. Conservative MP Enoch Powell made his controversial Rivers of Blood speech on immigration. And the following day, he was sacked by opposition leader Ted Heath. So some bad and some good in that one, I suppose. They at least booted him out.
Yes, yep.
And demonstrations were going on all around the world, but particularly in London for the purposes of this discussion. A demonstration in London's Grosvenor Square against the US involvement in the Vietnam War, and it led to 91 police injured and 200 demonstrators arrested. And later in the year, police and protesters clashed again at another anti-Vietnam protest outside the US Embassy in London.
Was it the Grosvenor Square one that gave rise to that really iconic image of the young women putting the flowers? No, that must have been in America if it was guns.
I think that was in the States because of the rifles, yeah.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of kind of civil unrest in the States as well. So that's a good point to sort of come on to this. Civil rights activist Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated on the 4th of April. Yeah. He was 39 years old. James Earl Ray, who was responsible for the assassination, was later arrested at Heathrow Airport, which I didn't know.
I didn't know that.
He was trying to get over to Belgium, apparently.
Wow, I never knew that.
No.
Amazing.
And then a couple of months later, on the 5th of June, presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy was also shot and killed. He was 42. So this is such a kind of volatile period.
Oh yeah.
In world politics as well as what was happening on our doorstep. And This, my goodness, Mary Bell. Do you know about Mary Bell, Kev?
I do know about Mary Bell. Yes, I do.
So Mary Bell was an 11-year-old girl from around Newcastle upon Tyne. And in 1968, she was sentenced to life detention for the manslaughter of 2 small boys. This is a really famous case of a child killer. And there was another girl, I believe, who was involved, but Mary Bell was very much the instigator, strangled these 2 little lads to death when she was sort of 10 or 11. And she was, just sort of bringing it back to horror movie chat, she was partly the inspiration for the character of Angel in Blood on Satan's Claw.
That's right, yes. I was only 6 years old when this happened in 1968, but I can remember grown-ups talking about Mary Bell for years afterwards.
Yeah.
It was so shocking. It was a bit like the equivalent for later generations would be the Jamie Bolger murder.
That's right.
It would be, the people talked about that for years and still do because of the shock that children could do such a thing.
Yeah.
Mary Bell was the equivalent of my childhood. I remember people talking about... In fact, if I remember right, there used to be a thing, like in the playground, that, Mary Bell's coming to get you.
Oh, my God.
She became a kind of a boogeyman character. And, she was a scary person. I don't know where she is now, if she's still alive or not. But
I should have checked that, actually. I don't know. There's amazing sort of black and white photos of her at the time. You've got this little, very sort of sharp, severe bob and just these extremely dark eyes. Yeah. People always talk about how dark her eyes were.
That's right, yes. And she was quite a scary little character, yes.
Yeah. In lighter news, London Bridge was sold to American entrepreneur Robert P. McCulloch for over £1 million, who then rebuilt it at Lake Havasu City in Arizona.
That's right, yeah.
And apparently it's not true that he thought he was buying the Tower Bridge.
No, that's an urban myth, apparently. Yes.
I think it's his grandson has come out and said, no, he knew exactly what he was buying.
Yeah, he knew what he was doing. There's a big difference between the old London Bridge and Tower Bridge. You'd be a fool.
Big difference.
If you're interested in seeing a horror film take on that moving of the bridge halfway around the world, there's a not very good TV film called...
Oh my God, I know what you're going to say.
Terror at London Bridge with David Hasselhoff. It does fortunately have Adrienne Barbeau in it as well, which is, always a plus in my view.
Always a pleasure, never a chore.
Sure, but in this scene, it posits the idea that the bridge goes to California and the ghost of Jack the Ripper goes with it, or the spirit of Jack the Ripper. Honestly, watch it because it's so hilariously awful.
I am pretty sure it's available to rent for free on Prime.
Give it a go.
It certainly was until very recently, so check it out. It's bonkers and exactly as ridiculous as you expect it to be.
To be fair, Amazon should be paying you to watch it. It really is. It's a terrible film, but it's kind of entertaining in its awfulness. But
it's a novelty, isn't it?
It is very much a novelty, yeah.
And the first jumbo jet, the Boeing 747, was introduced to meet soaring commercial travel demand. I can assume people wanting to fly to Arizona to go and see where the bridge is.
Or to actually fly the bridge over there. Let's just build it inside the plane and we'll fly it over there on the plane.
Very possibly. So on the box, on TV, Gardener's World and Dad's Army both debuted on the Beeb. And the 13th Eurovision Song Contest was held at the Royal Albert Hall in London. The UK finished in second place, just 1 point behind Spain. And our song was Congratulations by Cliff Richard, which went on to outsell the Spanish entry throughout Europe. It became an absolutely enormous hit.
In fairness, not a bad song.
No, it's all right.
I'm no Cliff fan, but...
Bit twee, but,
it's
it's
twee,
fine.
like all his stuff, but he's kind of catchy, isn't it?
Catchy,
Yeah, catchy like rabies. It's fantastic.
Speaking of music, it's time to check in on Beatles Watch.
Oh, yes.
The Beatles animated film Yellow Submarine premiered in London. And The Beatles, also known as The White Album, was also released this year.
Yes, wonderful
stuff.
album. Great stuff.
And to finish up on as we always do in cinemas. Now, Kev, there was a little film, I don't know if you're familiar with it actually. 2001 A Space Odyssey?
That sounds shit, doesn't it? What's that? I mean, what kind of nonsense is that? Yes, of course.
Doesn't sound like your sort of thing.
So it's all come back to me. I've remembered you got the title wrong. The title is The Greatest Film Ever Made. There you go. That's why I didn't recognise it. So, yes. So.
Yeah, sorry, I pronounced that weird. I don't know why.
I don't know what went wrong there, but yeah.
But when we were talking about Quatermass and The Pit, you made the very good point about there being this little sort of triptych of films around this time that were sort of touching, like sci-fi films that were touching on evolution. So you had Quatermass and The Pit, you had 2001 A Space Odyssey, and also Planet of the Apes came out this year as well.
Another classic.
We also got a couple of massive musicals, both Funny Girl and Oliver, one of my all-time favourite movies, came out in 1968. Yep. And in horror, it was also quite the year. And I think it's worth mentioning that we love Hammer. We talk about it every week. We love, love, love it. But horror was certainly starting to go in a slightly different direction, because 1968 was the year that the world got Rosemary's Baby, Night of the Living Dead, and Witchfinder General.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Now, Night of the Living Dead wasn't an immediate hit, but its long-term impact has been extraordinary. And Rosemary's Baby and Witchfinder General were hits at the time. So
that's right.
It must have rattled Hammer a little bit to look at all that and think, oh, hang on a minute, we're doing more Dracula films. We're doing one Dracula film a year, and they've got all this going on.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, let's do it. Let's get back to Dracula. Before we get distracted by all of these newfangled films.
I like these little Hammer in History spots. I enjoy them. They're really good. Really good.
I really enjoy researching them. It's very interesting kind of trying to pick out the bits that I feel might, be of interest, I
have weird Proustian moments, like flashbacks to seeing a trailer for Planet of the Apes at the cinema when I was 6 and thinking, oh, monkeys, that's going to be brilliant, isn't it? But not really realising just how brilliant it was going to be. But there you are. Anyway, back at the rant.
We need to go through our cast of characters. You were saying earlier, Kev, that there isn't a member of this cast who sort of phones it in. So let's talk about some of them. We've got, as you mentioned, Barry Andrews as Paul, who is our young atheist, learned hero. Yeah. And, he thinks something of himself, doesn't he?
He's a cocky little bugger, but I like that because a lot of Hammer's young leads are a bit bland.
Yeah, oh my God, aren't they?
Some young leads are a bit sort of like, they just turn up, they're a bit moonstruck. They're a bit lovey-dovey and they're a bit sort of like, oh, yes, I'm going to see my girlfriend. Oh, I can't go see my girlfriend. My father doesn't approve. Blah, 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 blah. It's like, just shut up and get on with it. But I think Barry Andrews as Paul, he's really feisty. He's got a real sort of spirit to him.
He knows himself, like he's confident. And I think that's very attractive.
But also I think I like the fact that he knows himself. He's very confident about his intellectual aspirations, but then has everything challenged.
Yes.
That's really interesting that he then has to rise to the challenge that maybe he wasn't quite who he thought he was. Again, it's so nuanced, this script. I mean, let's give a round of applause again to Anthony Hines, because that man, he could write. He really could. Well, Barry Andrews is excellent, isn't he? He's really, really good. And you just mentioned Blood on Satan's Claw. He's in that.
Yes.
He's the young lead in that.
Yes.
And very good again in that.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
I knew that I recognised his curly hair.
Yeah, very distinctive, isn't he? Very distinctive.
It is.
He's a very handsome young man, damn his eyes. And, he's got a very striking presence. And I think he's probably the best young lead we've seen in a Hammer film for quite some time.
Yeah, I agree. He's fantastic. And he bloody knows it as well. Paul
he does,
says,
yeah.
When we're introduced to him, Paul says he describes himself as young, hard-working, good-looking, abstemious.
He's a cocky little sod, but you can't help but love him. He's one of those guys, that if you were his age, you'd hang around with him and you'd just be rolling your eyes the whole time thinking, Paul, mate, you're a nice guy, but shut up. Just rein it back a little bit, And we've all had friends like that.
His girlfriend, Maria, who is... she sort of ends up as the main victim, the main sort of, I suppose, the person who Dracula has his evil eye on the most in this film. She's
his main target.
Exactly. He's out
he targets her.
He's out for revenge against the Monsignor because he's locked him out of his castle.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
And so he goes after his niece. And we've got Veronica Carlson as Maria.
Fantastic. Isn't she stunning?
Stunning.
Absolutely stunning.
And really, really good.
Really good. I really like her. James Carreras has seen her in some stills for the Morecambe and Wise film, The Magnificent Two from 1967, and thought, hello. As indeed, any red-blooded man probably would at the time. Looked at pictures of Veronica Carlson and gone, hello, and ding dong. But, he thought, she looks amazing. Why have we not got Veronica Carlson in something? So he just offered her this part because she just looked so amazing. As it turns out, she was really, really good in it.
Yeah.
Could have gone horribly wrong. There are other films around this time. I'm looking at you, Vengeance of She, where young blondes were given roles which they clearly weren't suited to, i.e. acting roles.
Right.
It wasn't the fact that the role wasn't right for them. It's the fact they couldn't bloody act. But Veronica Carlson could. Veronica Carlson is terrific. She gets one of my favourite moments, which we'll talk about at the end, and it's all done with acting. It's so good. It's so great. I love her. She's wonderful.
I think Maria goes on a real... roller coaster in this film, actually, to be honest, and Veronica Carlson really sells that, from being sort of young and happy and in love and quite playful. There's almost like a chase me moment, which I love.
That's right. Yeah.
But then right to the other end of the spectrum, where she is confused and terrified out of her wits, and sort of uncontrollably crying and terrified. And she really does run the whole gamut. I thought she was great.
And I think those early scenes, which sort of threaten to break into the tweeness of the usual young lovers we get in Hammer, actually work really well here, because we're given something for her to lose. Her innocence, her playfulness, her childlike spirit at the beginning of the film. And, that's really pushed to the limit throughout this film. I don't think she's the same person at the end when she's on the parapets of the castle.
Absolutely
hugging
not.
Paul. I don't think she's the same person as when we first met her. That happy-go-lucky young girl is now this sort of terrified, slightly more world-weary woman. And we've seen that happen in the course of an hour and a half. And really, again, Anthony Hines, man, you are so good.
And it's, I like as well that, it's quite sexy, this film. You mentioned earlier there's a bit of sex in this one.
Oh, yeah.
And I like her relationship with Paul. There's an air of, it's not this sort of twee little stage chaperoned kind of relationship. She's sneaking out and running around on the roofs to sneak into his digs, and definitely they have sex, and then she sneaks out in the morning. I'm into it. It's good.
Her and Xena, who we'll talk about in a few moments, are the latest in a long line of Hammer's horny women. Who are really up for it and really going to take control of this situation. If you're not going to give it up, mate, I'm coming in and I'm going to just seduce you.
Xena is extremely horny. She is the absolutely quintessential, flirty, busty barmaid. One of my favourite moments of the film is when she's serving some guys in the pub.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say this. Yeah.
She leans over to put their drinks in front of them. And, right, I know that we've had this controversy about whether Quatermass says in Quatermass and the Pit that he never drinks on a full moon. And I am terrified that I am going to say this line and you're going to say that's not what he says, because it's incredible if it is what he says. He says to her, as he looks at her cleavage as she's almost spilling out of her top, "Your dumplings are boiling over."
That's exactly what I hear him say as well. And the fact that, you kind of get the impression that good old Xena's done this deliberately. Because you've got these drunken blokes in the pub, and if she does that, they'll probably buy another round of drinks because, she's kind of flirting with them in a strange way.
There's no doubt in my mind, Kev, that she does it deliberately, because later on, when she is sort of rebuffed / run out of Paul's room after she's tried it on with him, and Marie turns up to say, actually, no, he's my boyfriend, I'll take his trousers off when he's drunk, thank you very much. When Xena comes out of the room, she actively pulls up her top to cover her boobs a bit more, because she's like, well, I'm not wasting these,
Exactly, exactly. I'm going to use these where they're appreciated. Thank you very much. And we should point out at this point that Xena is brilliantly played by Barbara Ewing, who is one of the earthiest, could we say earthiest?
Sure.
Earthiest women in Hammer. She's a naughty girl, Xena. And I think Barbara Ewing just plays it beautifully. And she has a terrific line in Uncontrolled Jealousy as well. She gets that fantastic line when Dracula seduces Xena. And then he turns his attentions to Maria. And during his seduction of Maria, incidentally, I think we see Hammer pushing the envelope further than ever done before in terms of eroticism.
100%.
That is a really hot scene, isn't it?
My God, the way he's like... it's not even...
Nuzzling her.
Yeah, nuzzling. Nuzzling is the word.
Yeah.
Her face and sort of round... It's not one of these... Dracula bites where he just comes in for the neck, raises his cape, and you cut to the next scene. You get a tight close-up on Christopher Lee nuzzling in a very erotic way Veronica Carlson's sort of face and neck before he bites her.
And Maria is about to explode in that scene.
Oh my
She's
God.
so turned on at that moment, which, again, he's like suggesting this extraordinary power that Dracula has over women.
Yeah.
But we've already seen something like it when he seduces Xena. And when he rejects Xena in favour of Maria, Barbara Ewing gets this great line, "What do you want her for? You've got me."
That's right.
And she's so furious. She can't understand how this sort of prim and proper, supposedly prim and proper, we know what she's really up to. This outwardly prim and proper and very, very 1905 young lady, what's she got that flirty Xena hasn't got?
Yeah.
And she doesn't understand. She doesn't understand what's going on, why Dracula is doing what he's doing and why he's targeting her and all the rest of it. But I love the fact that she's so jealous.
Yeah.
And she just becomes almost like Barbara Shelley in Dracula, Prince of Darkness.
She's
becomes
frantic,
feral.
isn't she?
Yeah, exactly. And that's a kind of running theme, isn't it, through Hammer's vampire films, that the women are then... I don't know whether it's sexist or not, to be honest, but their inner emotions are released, their sexuality is unleashed, and they don't know how to deal with it. Mm-hmm. Because I think, particularly in the times that the films were set, they're so buttoned up and so repressed that suddenly to have all this explosion of sexuality that, we take for granted today, we'd see things, television adverts that would make Dracula blush, wouldn't we? But I think, to have that sort of that force inside them unleashed, it kind of unhinges them a little bit because they don't know what to do with it. It's almost overwhelming, I think.
Yeah. And I think it's worth mentioning as well that you're so right in everything that you said. And then on top of that, because of the almost supernatural element of their desire for Dracula, because he's bitten them, and because he's got that sort of hypnotic element to his sort of seduction of them. There's almost an extra desperation to them, isn't there?
It's almost like their will has been taken away from them while they've just been given this new gift.
Yeah, that's such a good way of putting it.
Been given this incredible freedom, and at the same time they've been enslaved.
Yeah.
You know, so these are, oh God, the levels we're finding in this film, amazing. So good.
My God, and before we move on from Xena, her death is absolutely brutal. So
it is.
We've seen this before. He sort of throws her to one side. He's disgusted by her. He's bored of her. He tells her, well, if you're not going to go and get Maria for me, then, you're no good to me, right?
You're no good to me. I don't need you. Yeah.
And so he kills her, turns her into a vampire. But before she even has a chance to become reanimated and enter a vampire afterlife, he gets Ewan Hooper's priest to throw her into an incinerator.
That's right, yeah.
Where she is burnt down to ashes, and then you get that horrific bit where you've just got her boots left, and then the priest just throws them in after her.
Yeah. Horrible. Oh. I mean, it does beg the question, what the hell has that building got an incinerator of that strength in there for? I mean, that's, that's Undertaker strength, isn't it?
I mean, it is Undertaker strength. I mean, because I think because they're baking their own bread and stuff, right? So I think it's supposed to be kind of the bread oven. And you're absolutely right. I mean, she is cremated, but,
She's cremated, absolutely.
I suppose because she's a vampire, maybe it's easier for her to turn to dust?
Possibly, yeah. Maybe, because vampires do turn to dust when they die, don't they? Well, it's interesting that as soon as she turns, she's got the fangs straight away, hasn't she?
Yeah.
When we see her unconscious on the floor, she's bearing her fangs. Yeah, really, really good, but really brutal ending to poor old Xena.
I know.
I mean, basically, Xena just wanted a shag, and she ended up running across Dracula. I mean, it's almost like a morality tale, isn't it?
Well, yeah, she wanted a shag, and she got punished for it. I wonder where we've seen that else before. Only in 90% of horror films ever made.
Absolutely, exactly right. So, Hammer weren't going to wander off too far from the script with that one, I don't think. But yeah, we can't have too many horny women surviving these films because the world would descend into chaos, don't you know? We're British, Now,
to bring us back down to earth, get your bingo cards out, people.
Oh, yes.
It's Michael Ripper time.
Yes, it's Ripper time. Marvellous. And it is, look, we would just edit a bit in from a previous episode where we go, and this is where I can put on a slightly different voice. I shall slightly muffle the microphone to make it sound like a different recording. Isn't he good, Michael Ripper? Isn't he good in everything? Oh, yes, he's very good in this, isn't he? Yes, very good. But he is. He's fantastic. What I really like is the relationship between his character, Max, and Paul.
Yes.
He's part sort of father-son. He's part best mates.
Yeah.
He's part an older mentor figure advising callow youth.
Yes.
And it's such a lovely little performance and this lovely little relationship between the two of them. Even when Paul's getting all cocky and sort of, I'm going to be out of here and all the rest of it. And just Max is just sort of looking at it like, I heard this all before, haven't I? Yeah. It's a lovely, lovely little bit of acting. It really is.
It is. It's really good. As always, he's brilliant. And the bit mainly that I loved about this, and I don't think we've seen this from Michael Ripper before, and I loved to see it. He's getting it on. He's getting it on with the ladies.
Oh yeah.
You get Max flirting because he runs the inn, right?
He runs the inn. It's a Hammer film, and he's in it, and he's an innkeeper, of course.
Exactly, of course. But I've seen this, right, where because I've worked in a lot of pubs, and it's the evening that the boss has his evening off, his or her evening off, and so they stay or come to the pub to get shit-faced with the locals, and he is doing exactly that, and he's got got a couple of buxom young ladies who I can only assume he's giving free drinks to, because as is, his prerogative as the owner of the bar. And there's this brilliant moment where he's so flirty. He's sort of leaning over and sort of like playing with one of their like necklaces or something, like hanging around her neck. I'm like, go for it, Michael Ripper.
Do you know, I kind of wonder if Anthony Hines was chatting to you one day and said, Michael, you've done sterling service for us at Hammer. You really are sort of the heart of Hammer. I'm going to give you a couple of chicks to play with in the next film.
Or even, Michael, you've done some fantastic work for us over the years, an absolute stalwart, you're so precious to us here at Hammer. Is there anything that we can do for you? Is there anything that you haven't had the chance to do yet? Michael Ripper's just like, tits. Yeah. I want some tits.
Yeah, a girl on each knee, thank you very much.
Yeah, exactly.
I suspect Michael Ripper was far too much of a gentleman to say such a thing, but I would love for him to have said it. I mean, come on, can't I get the girl for once? I never get the girl in these things.
And he gets two, so fair play.
Yeah, so fair play, Michael. Brilliant work. You're a hero to us all in so many ways.
Absolutely. Anyone else in the cast worth mentioning?
We should talk about Rupert Davis as Monsignor.
Oh my God, I can't believe I almost missed out Rupert Davis. He's so good.
He'd been a brilliant Maigret for the BBC just prior to this. Yes. Really, really good. Absolutely fantastic. And he's so good in this. He's kind of playing the Van Helsing part, isn't he, really?
Yes,
or
exactly.
Kind of do you remember Andrew Keir's avenging warrior monk, Father Shandor, in Dracula, Prince of Darkness? He's the one that's sort of like, No,
I know the person you're referring to, the character. I have only just realised the other side of recording about Quatermass and the Pit, that's the same bloke.
It's Quatermass, yeah.
That's Andrew Keir. Oh my God, of course it is.
His brother Bernard, yeah.
Of course it is.
Yeah, of course it is, absolutely. But he was the kind of the analogue for Van Helsing in Dracula, Prince of Darkness. And
that's right.
The Monsignor is here. I don't think he's quite as good as Andrew Keir. I think Andrew Keir's got that crusading zeal.
And he's got that sort of cheekiness of warming his bum at the fire and things like that.
The Monsignor gets some funny lines with Paul before they fall out. He gets a little bit of sort of back chat with him while he's sort of ribbing him a little bit. But he's a bit more serious-minded.
He is.
And he does get a really sort of tragic death scene, doesn't he, in a way? He kind of dies, doesn't he, sort of like trying to persuade Paul what he needs to do?
I can't... Do you know what? I'm having an absolute blank about how he goes.
Yeah, he's lying on the chaise longue.
Oh my God, yes.
Paul comes in and he gives him the book and says, you must take God. You've got to do this. It's the only way you can save. And in the end, it's his words that sort of resonate with Paul, and he does the right thing at the end. So he gets a good exit to the film.
He does.
I like him as a character, though. I think he's quite a funny little guy in a lot of ways. He's quite an odd little chap.
He's really kind. Like, there's lovely moments. Like he really does care about Maria, his niece.
Oh, he does.
There's a line at one point that he sort of promised his brother, who would have been her father, that he'd look after her. And we get her mother, Anna, played by Marion Matthey. And there's a lovely little moment where she comes home from her first encounter with Dracula. She's been out all night, and she says to Paul and Matt, it's like, I must go home, Mum is going to be absolutely beside herself. And she sort of stumbles in, gets told off, but before Anna can almost get to the end of her telling off, Maria faints. She basically comes over all funny and falls over in bed. And there's this lovely bit later where the Monsignor sort of just brings her some soup, and then he goes, oh, I'm so sorry, I've forgotten to bring you a spoon, and he sort of gets up to run off, and she says, oh no, like, it's fine, like, I'm not hungry anyway. But they've got a lovely relationship. And it's funny about that thing about his death, because when you said, I was sort of trying to conjure up in my memory like a kind of violent end, but of course that's not it.
No,
he dies this very and it's actually at the hands of the priest
That's right.
Which
yes,
is
his own team, as it were.
exactly.
Turned on him.
Yeah, it's a friendly fire.
That's right. Yeah,
which is extra tragic because Monsignor and Maria wouldn't have even gotten involved in any of this if the Monsignor wasn't trying to do his job, basically, and try and help the priest and help the congregation of the town. And then
he's a good man. I don't believe what he believes, but the Monsignor is a good man.
I agree. Yeah,
in this film. Yeah.
And Rupert Davies does a really good job.
And we should talk very quickly about Ewan Hooper as well. As just priest, he hadn't got a name. He's not father someone, he's just the priest.
Yeah.
And he, very noticeably, he's dubbed in this.
Yeah.
And in 1995, he told Hammer Horror magazine, he said, I got a phone call one day asking me to go along for some dubbing sessions, but I was so very busy I didn't have time. Freddie Francis was out of the country, but he called me when he got back, very upset my part had been totally redubbed. The producer had done it while he was away. Freddie told me to get my agent onto it, but unfortunately it was in the contract and there was nothing we could do.
Oh, no.
I was very angry about it, and it's probably one of the reasons why I have never seen the film.
Wow.
Very sad, isn't it? Again, I think he's really good in the part. Why they redubbed him in the entirety, I don't know. Maybe he just flubbed a couple of lines. Maybe there were a couple of things that just needed a bit of tweaking, and they just thought, well, we can't find anyone who sounds like him, who's Scottish.
So we just have to... Oh, was
So presumably he was speaking with a Scottish accent, and they know about another Scotsman around to do that. I don't know.
They should have got Andrew Keir in.
Should have got Andrew Keir in. Andrew Keir would have done it. Andrew Keir had an amazing voice, absolutely incredible voice. But yeah, poor Ewan Hooper. I think he's really good as a priest. I think he does a really good job. And it's not him we're hearing. So sad.
Because, you're right. He is really good. He really gets across a sense of... having to do all of this stuff against his will.
Oh, yeah.
And he's already not in a great place when we first meet him. You know, he's the one that finds the body of the young woman who falls out of the bell. Yeah. He's then, had a year of people not coming to his church and it just being him and the altar boy played by Norman Bacon, sort of rattling around the church on their own, essentially. And he's taken to drinking, right? When the Monsignor first finds him, he's in the inn. And there's a really beautiful moment where the Monsignor has said to him, and he's sort of trying to kind of G him up almost and give him a purpose, and says to him, like, well, I'm going to go up to the castle and I'll exercise it, and you should come with me, and you must come with me because you are going to know these mountains far better than me, and you wouldn't want me to get lost. You need to come and help me. And then he just very gently just takes the drink away from him, doesn't make a big deal of it, just sort of takes it out of his hands. And sort of says so much in that moment of like, kind of, you don't need this, you've got other things to do.
It's such a nice performance from both those two men. I quite enjoy seeing them together.
Me too.
Davis and Hooper, they're a good team. Yeah. They're a good team. There's so many ways I wish they'd sort of survived it to be able to go on to do another film together. The further adventures of the priest and the Monsignor, that would have been really
maybe we'd have even got to know his name.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, I think the Monsignor, we do have a name for him, Ernst Mueller. But we don't get it in the
Uncle
credits.
Ernst.
It's just the Monsignor in the credits. So he wasn't very big on giving people names, I don't think.
So we should start wrapping things up. It's been so much brilliant stuff to talk about with this film, which is such a pleasure when we're talking about, our fourth Dracula, which, could have quite easily have fallen into the sort of mummy territory of sort of it just being slightly churned out and doing the same stuff. But one thing we haven't spoken about yet is the horror. And you've talked a couple of times about how Christopher Lee, specifically as Dracula, is very scary. One of the things that I really picked up on was actually the tension in this is really good. So, there are some fantastic moments of like capital H horror in it, but I found myself like quite on the edge of my seat just through all of it. You know, there's this just sort of simmering tension sort of beneath the surface, which I thought was great.
Well, Francis, of course, had done those psychological horror films, which were all suspense.
Yes, and it really does feel like he's sort of bringing something from those to this.
Into this, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it is a very tense film. You are very sort of like you say, you're on edge the whole time, aren't you? Waiting for some sort of resolution to let you go, and then they just tighten the rack a little bit further before they finally let us off the hook at the end. I think it's a really, really good. I think this is definitely the sort of thing I want from a Hammer Dracula film.
Yeah.
I think it's got proper gothic atmosphere. It's got that suspense. It's got plenty of blood, surprisingly, quite a lot of blood. Sort of explosions of violence here and there. I think, there's a lot of horror in this. Dare I say, because I got into trouble last time, as indeed I did when I wrote my review of it, but I think it's scarier than Dracula, Prince of Darkness. Sorry, I know, put the Wicker Man away, boys.
Definitely scarier than Dracula, Prince of Darkness.
But I think this is darker, nastier, creepier.
Yeah,
So, I think there's a lot of horror in this film. This is this is a horror film first, a film about loss and regaining of religious belief second, and a Dracula film third, almost, because it's just got so much going on in it,
Yeah, and again, just coming back to that opening scene again and how it really does sort of set us up for what to expect from the next sort of 80 minutes or so. Talking about the bloodshed in this film, I mean, you literally get Norman Bacon's altar boy going to stop the bell from ringing because it sort of started ringing on its own, it seems like. And he touches the rope and he realises he's got blood on his hands. And then he looks up and it is literally dripping
coming down the bell rope.
Ceiling, down the bell rope.
Yeah.
And then, this sort of very gory moment where this poor, young woman's body sort of falls out.
That's right,
upside down. It's really grotesque. And that is the opening scene to this film. It's so good.
Like I said, if you were on that date, you probably ruined your date, to be honest, after 5 minutes, but you'd be under no illusion as to what you've come to see.
Exactly.
If your girl says to you at this point, what have you brought me in for? You can't sort of feign sort of like, oh no, don't worry, it'll turn into a Disney film later on, because that's how it starts. Oh my God.
So from the beginning to the ending, let's pull things together and chat about the end. We've mentioned it a couple of times about kind of Paul's, I wouldn't go as far as to say a conversion, but this kind of realisation, I suppose.
It's a repositioning of his belief, isn't it?
Right.
It just modifies his belief a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah. And Dracula has whisked Maria away. She's riding shotgun on the carriage as he's taking her back up to the castle. Yeah. And there's this amazing moment talking about cross Christopher Lee, pun entirely intended. The way he just points at the huge crucifix that's barring the doors and spits at her. Get rid of that!
This is the height of his anger, isn't it? The whole thing comes down to the fact that he's just seriously pissed off that he's been locked out of his house.
It's like he's lost his keys.
Yeah.
He's basically...
He's lost his keys and he's going to blame everybody else for it and have a right proper bloody temper tantrum about it. But,
and he's finally managed to get his hands on a locksmith, essentially, and it's poor old Maria. And he gets her to manhandle this huge gold cross off of the doors.
And just lob it over the side so that it very conveniently lands in an upright position.
Very convenient.
Very conveniently.
Because then obviously the hero Paul comes to his girlfriend's rescue, and there's some brilliant grappling between almost the three of them, actually. It's real kind of chaos, this moment of, who's going to come out on top. But they manage to get Dracula up and over the sort of mezzanine bit of this, outdoors of the castle. And as you say, very conveniently, the cross has landed upright and he becomes impaled upon it, goes straight through him. And when the way it's shot, Kev, at first couldn't quite tell what had happened, and then the camera goes to a different angle and you basically see that like the whole of the top part of the cross has come through his chest, and then the rest of it is like propping him up. It's a very cool thing.
The only thing that sort of slightly lets it down is Dracula is killed because basically he's just a bit clumsy. He kind of overreaches himself and topples over the balcony of the parapets, and it's like,
he's very tall. He must have quite a high centre of gravity.
Indeed, yeah, indeed. So I'll let it off that. But it does kind of make me chuckle a little bit. It's like, oh, you silly bugger, look at that. You just fallen off the bloody parapet. Although it's also worth pointing out that this film was shot at Paramount, whereas Prince of Darkness and Dracula were shot at Bray, which is why, presumably, Dracula's castle is now right at the top of a very high mountain.
Yes.
Whereas in the previous films, it was low enough to have a river running past it.
That's right. Good point. And so that's it. He's dead again. So he's risen from the grave and he's back in it again now.
Slight spoiler for a coming episode. We're going to see that cross again in a couple of weeks' time.
Ooh, that's cool.
We're going to see the most concrete connection between two Dracula films so far.
Oh, amazing.
So, something to look forward to with the next one. Yeah.
And what is the next one?
Taste the Blood of Dracula.
Taste the Blood
Have you seen
Dracula.
That one?
No.
I'm very curious to see what you make of that.
Ooh, okay.
Very curious to see what you make of that.
Well, we won't have long to wait because they're making one a year now. So.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, God, we're going to be rushed up our feet, aren't we? We're going to wash with Draculas from this moment on.
Let's talk about some of our favourite moments. So for me, coming back to the huge cross, it was very much that image of the Monsignor carrying it up the mountain to the castle. I thought that was just, I don't know, it just really struck me. I thought it was an incredible image.
Yeah. It's almost like he's going to war, isn't it, with his weapon strapped to his back?
Very much like that.
Like a sword or a big machine gun or something. As a soldier of God going into battle.
That is exactly right. Yeah, it does feel like that. And Rupert Davies really kind of pulls that off, actually. I think it's brilliant.
He does, doesn't he?
Very striking. Yeah. There is an incredible moment when I think it's Xena comes down to the cellar of the inn where the priest has set Dracula up in his coffin. And as she comes to the bottom of the stairs, the coffin lid is kind of propped up against the wall in the shadows. And as she comes down, you can't see Dracula. And then he literally steps out of the shadow of this coffin-shaped shadow on the wall and steps into the light. I was like, chef's kiss. That is beautiful.
You see, he is a thing of the darkness.
Yeah.
He's a dweller of the darkness. And that one shot beautifully sums that up, doesn't it?
So cool.
Literally living in the shadow.
Yeah. And my last one is coming back to something you mentioned in passing earlier when we were talking about that very racy scene between Dracula and Maria in her bedroom. And you said, she sort of reaches this peak of ecstasy almost. And it's been quite obvious a couple of times that we've seen Maria in her bedroom previously in the film that she's got this little dolly that she keeps in the bed with her. Fine, she's a grown woman. I mean, I'm 44 and I still have a stuffed rabbit in my bed. So, absolutely no shade or judgment. But it's used to beautiful effect when the camera pans over and she's gripping the doll with all her might and then throws it aside as her fingers kind of splay out. And it's such a lovely visual metaphor for, I am not a little girl anymore. Right?
That's right. Yeah. Everything she's lost and everything she's gained in one shot.
It's very cool.
Very good indeed.
How about you?
I think we've mentioned a lot of the things that I like. The opening sequence, absolutely par excellence. That's absolutely amazing. This might be reaching a little bit, but There's a moment where Dracula is seen standing stock still, just pointing at the priest when he's first revived.
That's right.
And it puts me in mind of a brief shot from a much later film. The strange man with a towel on his head in the Ring death video, in Ring.
Oh, yeah.
Just standing there, just pointing in the same way.
Oh, God.
Pointing off camera.
You need to give me trigger warnings if you're going to bring up the blimmin' tape from the Ring. Come on, Kev. Bloody hell, I've got shivers.
Well, you've got 7 days now to pass that on to someone else. But I wonder if Hideo Nakata was a fan.
Yeah.
And just like that image, because it's such a striking image.
Yeah.
And watch it again if you can bring yourself to watch Ring again without being too freaked out. Watch it again, or just watch the death video and see if you can survive it. And you'll see that shot of the guy just standing there pointing.
I know. I can conjure it in my brain.
towel.
Trust me, it's seared into the backs of my eyeballs, so I know exactly what you're referring to. Yeah.
So it might be a stretch, but that's kind of what it reminds me of. It does make me think, did Hideo Nakata see it and think, I like that as an image, an isolated image? Mm-hmm. I love that very awkward dinner conversation between Paul and the Monsignor. And this is a bit I mentioned earlier about how Veronica Carlson just does a very little bit with acting. It's all going horribly wrong. The shit's hit the fan big time. Paul has admitted to being an atheist. He's not backing down to the Monsignor. And it just cuts to Maria, and just the look of resignation on her face. Like, oh, God. Like almost like, oh, God, here we go again.
Yeah.
As if she's had previous boyfriends that have had this run-in with her uncle. Beautifully judged little bit of acting, that. It's not oversold in any way. It's not a big gesture. It's just a bit sort of a, oh, God,
Absolutely,
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I just love that. I love all the scenes that are set on the rooftops.
Oh, beautiful.
Beautiful shots of them wandering about on the rooftops. Absolutely amazing. One of the sort of more abstract things I love, this is the last one, I promise you, I love the fact that the locals are genuinely panic-stricken at the thought that Dracula might have returned.
Mm-hmm.
It really emphasises the power that he had over the locals. I don't think we see that in the earlier films quite so much.
Yeah.
In this one, he really is a scourge on the local society.
Scourge is the perfect word. There really is a sense of, they have been living under this literal shadow for,
yes,
years and years and years. And you're right, that absolute palpable fear when they hear that he's back.
They hear the horse and cart, don't they? And they're literally throwing themselves at the door to try and barricade the door in case he tries to come in. Because they're not sure who it is that's outside. Absolutely terrific. I just love that atmosphere. The atmosphere of it, that's maybe what it is. It's just the atmosphere of the film is so good.
Absolutely.
So good.
You mentioned earlier that this was a smash hit, Kev. How did it do commercially?
It did really well for Hammer. It was one of their most financially successful films to date. In fact. Yeah, really good. I guess the attraction of having Christopher Lee back again as Dracula really did it.
Yeah.
1968, the kids were revolting, so they were probably looking for something a bit, bit outre to go and see. They didn't want to go and see Cliff Richard films anymore. They wanted to see something a bit naughty and a bit violent and a bit scary. So, I think that probably helped. And it did really well in America as well, but in the UK in particular, it broke the record for the largest opening day box office take in London.
No way.
It was a massive hit.
That is awesome.
And that was why James Carrera said, all right then, you love Dracula, I'm going to give you one of these every year from now on. And unfortunately, James Carreras is about to leave the story. He's going to retire in a couple of years' time, having set this in motion and leaving it to poor old Michael Carreras to then carry it on. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
To deal with poor old Christopher Lee.
Yeah, basically to deal with an increasingly pissed off Christopher Lee. Yeah, exactly. The way to pass the buck, Sir James. Nice work.
And how about for us? Where does this one rank for you, Kev?
Do you know what? I'd actually put it in upper originally. Upper. I think it's elite now that
Holy shit!
Now that I've listened to you talking about it and listened to me talking about it, I'm willing to believe that this is actually one of...
You're like, I've said some very clever things this episode, actually, so...
What do you mean, this episode? I'm always saying bloody clever things.
Of course.
How dare you? I should go all Christopher Lee on you now. How dare you?
Oh my God, no.
But no, I think this is actually an elite Hammer film. And I know there's a lot of people that will say, no, it's not that good. But Sodom, I think it's great. I think it's a really, really strong film. I'm going to probably up my rating on Letterboxd.
I love that.
Having watched it last night, I just found myself riveted to it the whole way through. And one of those things where it was sort of rumbling along and I was thinking, this is sort of picking up pace and we're not even halfway there yet. And I sort of had a look at the timer on it. There was about 10 minutes to go. And I thought, oh my God, that shot past so quickly. Yes. Hugely entertaining, great fun. And I'm going to say, yes, it's elite.
Fair play. I wouldn't go as high as elite, but it's absolutely an upper. I really, really enjoyed it. I think the performances, as you said so rightly, are great across the board. It looks brilliant. It's scary. Christopher Lee's Dracula is scary. The supporting cast are lovely. Michael Ripper's in it. Just as a sum of its parts, I think it just is a really, really good. Like, it's not just solid. This is a good Hammer film, and for me it's got to be an upper. I thoroughly enjoyed this one.
What I'm hearing is you saying actually it's elite, but I'm just going to stick to my guns and say it's upper because I said that, but I'm kind of talking myself into it being elite. That's what I'm hearing.
The trouble is in my brain, you know how we'll be kind of like, well, this is middle, but it's upper middle. Or this is upper, but it's lower upper. Yeah. In my brain, I can't do that with elite. I'm like, I'm sort of quite purist about elite. I'm like, you're either elite or you're not. You can't be lower elite. so I can't quite put it there, but it is, like I say, absolutely stone cold upper. I thought it was brilliant.
It's probably a good time to just remind people these ratings are all for fun.
Oh, yeah.
And they will almost certainly change at some point. We have discussed the fact that maybe in a few years' time we'll come back and look at some of the more contentious films and see if we change our opinions on it, because we do as we age and as we see more films and as we have more experiences, we change our opinions. That's absolutely acceptable. So don't take them too seriously, but I am right, it is as always.
Thanks for listening to Hammer Time. We'll be back next week, and this is another good one. Peter Cushing is back as the Baron once again, and more nefarious than ever in Frankenstein Must Be Destroyed from 1968. To check out the full list of movies we'll be covering throughout this podcast, head to evolutionofhorror.com/hammer. We'd love to hear from you, so please send us questions or comments for upcoming mailbag episodes. Let us know where those Freddie Francis filters went.
Yes, definitely.
Drop us an email to hammer@evolutionofhorror.com.
And if I might say, if you have them, I've got a tenner here. You know, I'll gladly part with that for them.
Cheap at twice the price. You can follow the Evolution of Horror Network on Instagram at EOH_network and on BlueSky at Evolution of Horror. You can follow me on Instagram and BlueSky at Bunny Darke, and on Letterboxd I'm Becky Darke. And Kev, where can people find you and your work online?
EOFFTV. That's where you can find me on BlueSky, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and Letterboxd. You'll notice I'm still calling it Twitter. I will not call it that new name. I'm sorry. I'm sticking with it. Never. You can find my website, the Encyclopedia of Fantastic Film and Television, at eofftv.com, or you can search for EOFFTV Review and see all my scintillating reviews of Hammer and loads of other stuff as well, which will probably get your blood pressure up and you'll be thinking, what the hell's this idiot talking about? But go and have a look at them anyway.
Don't forget to rate and review us on your podcast app of choice. Thank you for listening. Join us again next week for another episode of Hammer Time.